Aaron lived in a quiet mining colony on the edge of human space. The colony was small, made of steel shelters and dust-worn paths, surrounded by the endless desert. People there worked hard to dig minerals from the rocky ground, and most nights were silent except for the sound of the wind. Aaron was not a miner like the others. He was an engineer, a man who fixed machines, engines, and the old ships that traders brought in. He liked machines more than people, and he was known for staying long hours in his workshop, making broken things work again. One evening, as he was checking the scanners in his small control shed, he noticed a strange signal. At first, he thought it was another miner's equipment sending faulty readings, but the signal was not coming from the colony. It came from deep in the desert miles away. It was faint, repeating in a strange pattern, unlike the signals human machines usually gave. Aaron frowned. Curiosity filled his mind. He could ignore it, but something about the sound made him restless. He packed a small bag of tools, loaded his old rover, and drove out into the desert. The night sky above was filled with stars more than he had ever seen back on Earth. The desert was quiet, endless, and cold. After 2 hours of travel, he reached the spot where the signal was strongest. There in the middle of the sand, he saw something that did not belong to the desert. It was a ship. Sleek, silver, and half buried in the sand, as if it had fallen from the sky. The design was unlike anything he had seen before. Human ships were bulky, patched together, built for use rather than beauty. This ship looked like it was grown instead of built, smooth and shining under the starlight, with sharp curves and glowing lines running along its sides. Aaron's heart beat faster. He parked the rover and stepped closer. The ship's surface was warm, not cold like metal should be. Parts of it were cracked and sparks flickered near a broken panel. He walked around it until he found an opening. The door was half open, stuck in the sand. With effort, he forced it wider and stepped inside. The air inside was heavy with a strange scent, something like flowers and iron. The walls were lined with glowing symbols he did not understand. In the center, slumped against the wall, was a figure. At first, Aaron thought it was just a shadow. Then he saw the shape of arms, legs, and a head. It was a woman, but not human. She was taller than him, her skin faintly glowing pale blue in the dim light. Her hair was silver, falling over her shoulders like strands of light. She wore a suit of fabric that seemed woven from crystals now torn and stained. Her eyes opened slowly as he stepped closer. They were bright, golden like the sun. She spoke in a voice weak but clear, though her words were strange. Aaron raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "I am not here to hurt you. You are hurt. Let me help." The woman tried to speak again, her words broken, but he caught one sound, her name. Mira. Aaron knelt beside her. She was injured, her arm cut, and her breathing uneven. He took a water flask from his bag and offered it. She drank carefully, watching him with alert eyes, as if judging every move. Aaron felt nervous. This was not just an alien. She carried herself with a kind of dignity, even in her weakened state. She looked like someone used to command, not someone lost. Still, she needed help, and he was the only one there. Aaron examined the ship. Much of it was damaged. Engine parts cracked, strange crystals shattered, wires burning out. He did not understand the design, but he recognized the idea of a broken engine. Machines were machines, even if they came from another world. "I can fix it," he said softly, though he was not sure if she understood. "It will take time, but I can try." Mira tilted her head, her golden eyes following him. Then she gave a small nod, as if granting him permission. For the next hour, Aaron worked inside the ship, checking what tools he could use. Many parts were unlike anything he had ever touched. They were smooth, weightless, and glowed when moved. But he had learned long ago that even the strangest machines had systems, power sources, connectors, engines, and circuits. He could see where energy had burned out, where connections were broken. His hands moved with patience, guided by instinct. Mira watched him quietly. Sometimes she tried to speak, using words he did not know. Sometimes she just studied him with an expression that made him uneasy, as if she was not only watching him fix her ship, but also testing him. By midnight, he had done what he could for the moment. He patched some parts, cleared broken wires, and closed the worst cracks. The ship would not fly yet, but it no longer leaked energy. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at Mira. "You will be safe here for now," he said, "but we must work more." Mira gave a faint smile, the first he had seen. She placed her hand on her chest and repeated softly, "Mira." Aaron pointed to himself. "Aaron." She repeated his name slowly as if tasting the sound. "Aaron," he nodded. For the first time he felt a strange connection. She was alien, her ship beyond anything he knew, but she had trusted him enough to stay, and he had trusted her enough to help. Outside, the desert wind howled, but inside the broken ship, something had begun. Aaron did not know who she truly was, nor the meaning of her gaze as she watched him. To him she was only a traveler lost and in need of help. To her, he was more than that. He was a man who had stepped into danger not for reward but for kindness, and though Aaron could not see it yet, that choice was the beginning of a path that would change his life, and perhaps the fate of both their worlds. The next morning, the desert sun rose high and bright, painting the sand in golden light. Aaron woke inside the broken ship where he had rested on the floor after working half the night. The air was still heavy with the strange, sweet scent, but he had grown used to it. Mira was awake too, sitting near the wall with her eyes closed as if meditating. Her golden eyes opened when she noticed him move, and for a moment there was silence between them. Aaron stood, stretched his arms, and checked the patched circuits from the night before. They were still holding. The ship was far from ready, but it was alive enough to keep her safe. He turned back to her and spoke slowly. "Food," he said, pointing to the bag he had brought. He pulled out a packet of dried bread and fruit. She tilted her head, curious. He broke a piece of bread and ate it to show it was safe. After watching, she tried a small piece. Her expression softened and she gave a quiet nod. Though they did not share the same language, little by little, they began to find ways to understand each other. For days, Aaron returned to the ship. He fixed what he could each time, using parts from his workshop and old machines he had collected over the years. The ship was unlike anything he had studied, yet the more he worked, the more he began to see how its systems connected. Its engine core was made of glowing crystals, pulsing with faint light. The control panel shifted when touched, as if alive. The designs were strange, but the logic of machines was still there. Mira often sat nearby, watching him with calm eyes. Sometimes she tried to help, pointing at broken areas and speaking in her language. Other times she asked simple questions, slowly learning human words. She pointed to a spanner in his hand one day. "Name?" she asked in careful voice. "Tool," Aaron said. Then more specific, "Spanner." She repeated the word slowly. "Spanner." Her accent made the sound gentle. Another time, she pointed at herself, "Mira." Then she touched his chest. "Waiting." "Aaron," he said. She smiled slightly, repeating his name as if she liked how it sounded. Aaron was not a man used to company. He lived quietly, worked quietly, and rarely spoke more than he had to. But with Mira, he found himself speaking more. He explained machines, showed her parts, and even told her stories about life in the colony. She listened with interest, even when she understood only a little. At night, when he returned to the colony, he kept Mira's presence secret. He told no one about the ship. The miners would not understand. If they knew an alien ship had fallen near them, they might try to capture it or worse, harm her. Humans had not met many alien races yet, and fear often guided their actions. Aaron wanted to protect Mira even though he did not fully know why. Days turned into a week. The repairs continued. Aaron worked harder than ever, sometimes forgetting meals, sometimes sleeping only a few hours. He told himself it was only because he loved fixing machines, but deep inside, he knew it was more. He wanted to see her safe. He wanted to see her ship fly again. One evening, after hours of work, Mira touched his arm gently. She looked into his eyes and spoke in a slow, careful voice. "You help? Why?" Aaron paused. He thought about the question. Why was he helping? He could have left her that first night. He could have told others and walked away. Yet here he was, risking his safety, giving his time, sharing his food. He answered simply. "Because you needed help," he said. Mira tilted her head. Her golden eyes softened, and for the first time she gave him a true smile, not faint or guarded, but warm. It startled him, and for a moment he could not speak. The next day, while Aaron worked on the ship's engine core, Mira sat beside him and traced symbols on the floor with her finger. They were curved, flowing shapes, glowing faintly as if her finger carried light. She pointed at one and spoke in her language, then pointed at another. Aaron realized she was teaching him. He repeated the sounds carefully. She laughed softly when he made mistakes, then corrected him with patience. In return, he pointed at tools or parts and said their human names. Slowly, they exchanged knowledge, creating a bridge of words. Through this exchange, Aaron learned fragments of her story. Mira spoke of being far from her home, of danger, and of needing to return. Her words were broken, and he could not understand everything, but he sensed a weight behind her voice. She was not just any traveler. There was something greater about her, though she never said directly. Still, he did not ask too much. He respected her silence. Instead, he focused on what he could do: repair her ship. One evening, as the desert winds howled outside, Aaron tested the power core. The crystals inside the engine glowed brighter, humming with energy. The panels lit up, and the ship's systems flickered to life for the first time since the crash. Lights ran along the walls, and the air shifted with power. Mira gasped softly, her golden eyes wide with relief. "It lives," she whispered in her language, then repeated in broken human words. "Ship, lives," Aaron smiled. Not ready to fly yet, but alive. She reached out, placing her hand gently over his. Her touch was warm, and he felt a strange spark move through him. He froze, unsure what to do, but her gaze held his steady. There was no fear in her eyes, only trust. That night, when he returned to the colony, Aaron lay awake in his small shelter, staring at the ceiling. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, just a man who fixed machines. But with Mira, he felt different. She looked at him as if he was more than ordinary, as if what he did mattered. Still, danger lurked. He knew if anyone discovered Mira, things would turn bad quickly. The miners were restless, always searching for profit. A crashed alien ship would bring greed and trouble. Aaron decided he would keep her secret at all costs. But he did not know that others had already noticed his long absences and strange behavior. In the shadows of the colony, eyes were watching. Men whispered that Aaron was hiding something in the desert, and some of them were ready to follow him. For now, though, Aaron worked in peace, unaware of what was coming. He fixed her broken ship one piece at a time, not knowing that each repair was also repairing something inside him. And as Mira watched him with calm golden eyes, she was not only seeing an engineer, she was seeing the kind of man her people believed worthy of trust, perhaps even more. The desert night stretched long and silent, but inside the silver ship, a bond was forming, a secret bond, fragile but growing stronger each day. The desert had grown colder as nights passed, and Aaron was spending more and more time in the broken silver ship. Each day he carried food, tools, and spare parts from his workshop to the crash site. Each night he returned to his small shelter in the colony, pretending life was normal. But inside, he knew his life was no longer the same. Mira's ship was slowly coming back to life. The engines hummed, the glowing panels responded to touch, and the inner lights burned brighter with each repair.
Mira's health had also improved.
Her injuries had healed, and she no longer moved with weakness. She had regained her strength, and when she stood tall in the cabin, Aaron realized how commanding her presence truly was. She looked as if she belonged to another world of power and dignity. Yet, despite her strength, she stayed by his side as he worked, learning his words, teaching him some of hers, and watching his every action with sharp golden eyes. Aaron had begun to wonder about her true story. He knew she was more than a traveler. Her ship was too advanced, her clothing too fine, and her gaze too steady to belong to someone ordinary. Still, she had not spoken the full truth, and Aaron respected her silence. That peace ended one evening. Aaron had just finished adjusting one of the power regulators when the sound of voices drifted through the desert wind. He froze. No one should be here. He quickly dimmed the lights of the ship and looked through a narrow gap in the door. Outside, 3 men from the colony walked across the sand. They carried rifles and lamps, searching the ground with sharp eyes. These were not miners finishing a shift. They were hunters, men who thrived on finding things others wanted and selling them for profit. Aaron's stomach tightened. He knew these men. They were troublemakers in the colony, always looking for an easy gain. If they saw Mira's ship, everything would change. Mira stepped behind him, sensing the danger. She whispered his name softly, her tone asking without words what was happening. Aaron raised a hand, signaling her to stay quiet. The hunters moved closer. One of them, a tall man with a scar on his cheek, stopped and looked at the sand. He crouched, running his hand across the ground where Aaron's rover tracks were faintly visible. "Someone has been here," the man muttered. Another man pointed ahead. "Look, something shiny in the sand." They moved toward the half-buried silver hull of Mira's ship. Aaron's heart pounded. He knew he could not hide it any longer. He had to protect her. He stepped out of the ship before the hunters reached it, raising his hand to block their path. "You should not be here," Aaron said firmly. The men looked surprised to see him, then they smirked. "What are you doing out here, Aaron?" the scarred man asked. "We heard you have been sneaking into the desert every day. Now we see why." He gestured toward the faint outline of the ship. "What have you found?" Aaron shook his head. "Nothing that concerns you. Go back to the colony." The third man laughed. "Do not lie to us. That is no mining equipment. That is a ship and not one of ours. Do you know how much people would pay for this? Or for whoever is inside?" Aaron stepped forward, blocking their view. His voice was steady. "There is nothing for you here, leave." The hunters tightened their grip on their weapons. Their eyes gleamed with greed. They had seen enough to know this was no ordinary discovery. Before they could move closer, Mira stepped out of the ship. She no longer looked weak or hidden. She stood tall, her silver hair catching the starlight, her golden eyes burning with strength. The men froze, shocked by the sight of her. The scarred man whispered almost in awe, "An alien." Mira looked at them calmly, her expression proud. She spoke in her own language, her voice firm and commanding. The men could not understand her words, but they felt the authority in her tone. Aaron glanced at her, surprised. He had never seen her like this. In that moment, she looked like more than a traveler. She looked like someone born to lead. One of the hunters grinned wickedly. "She will fetch a fortune. Armies would pay for her. Traders, too. Aaron, step aside. This is bigger than you." Aaron clenched his fists. Fear pressed at him, but he refused to move. "No," he said. "She is not yours to take." The hunters raised their rifles. The desert wind howled around them. Mira suddenly touched a device on her wrist. A shield of golden light spread in front of her and Aaron, blocking the men's aim. Their shots fired, but the shield absorbed them with sparks. The hunters cursed, stepping back in shock. Aaron looked at Mira in astonishment. She had this power all along, yet she had never used it before. She turned to him, her golden eyes steady. For the first time, she spoke clearly in his language, though broken. "I am not only Mira. I am Princess Mira, of Star Kingdom Leora. Enemies chase me. They want my ship, my secrets, my life. But you fix my ship. You protect me. You choose to stand. You must know now." Aaron stared at her, stunned. A princess. He had suspected she was important, but not this. Not a royal figure from a distant kingdom of stars. The hunters, hearing enough, grew more desperate. "A princess," one of them whispered. "Worth more than we dreamed." They raised their weapons again, greed blinding them. Aaron knew there was no turning back. The truth was revealed. Mira was not just a lost traveler. She was royalty hunted across the stars. And now, because he had chosen to help her, he stood in the middle of danger he could never have imagined. Mira's shield flickered as the hunters pressed their attack. Aaron grabbed a tool from his bag, a heavy wrench, and prepared to defend himself. He was not a soldier, but he would not let them take her. In that moment, he understood what kind of man he wanted to be. Not one who looked away when someone was in need, but one who stood firm even when the odds were against him. The desert echoed with shouts and gunfire. Sparks lit the night. Mira and Aaron stood together, shield and courage side by side, against the men who would capture her. And though Aaron did not yet realize it, by standing there with her, he had already passed a test far greater than repairing a broken ship. He had shown his heart. The night had revealed not only who Mira truly was, but also who Aaron could become. And it was only the beginning. The night air was sharp, and the desert sand shifted under Aaron's boots as the hunters circled. Their rifles glimmered in the starlight, and their greedy eyes never left Mira. To them, she was not a living being with her own will. She was treasure, a prize worth risking everything for. But to Aaron, she was no prize. She was a person who had trusted him, someone who needed protection. He had spent weeks bringing her ship back to life, and now he would not let her be taken. His heart pounded, but his resolve was clear. Mira's shield flickered again as more energy blasts struck it. The golden light absorbed the hits but dimmed each time. She glanced at the glowing device on her wrist, her expression calm but concerned. "Shield, not long," she said in her broken human words. Aaron nodded. Then we make it count, the hunters shouted, trying to spread out. They thought their numbers and weapons would break through. They did not realize Aaron had grown up in this desert. He knew how to use its silence and shadows. Stay close, he whispered to Mira. Then he moved quickly, dragging a small metal box from his tool bag. It was one of his trap devices, something he had built long ago to protect his workshop from thieves. He pressed a button and wires shot into the sand, humming with energy. One hunter stepped forward, only to find the ground beneath his foot glowing. A sudden burst of light exploded, knocking him backward. He screamed as his rifle flew from his hand. The other two cursed and fired wildly, but Aaron had already pulled Mira behind a ridge of sand. The blasts struck the ground, sending up clouds of dust. Mira watched him with sharp eyes. You fight. With mind, she said, almost with pride. Aaron shrugged, though his chest was tight with fear. I fix machines. I build traps. I use what I know. The scarred man snarled and shouted to his companions. Do not let him trick you. Surround them. The hunters split apart, trying to corner them. Aaron searched his bag quickly. He had one more trick. He pulled out a small sphere, a shock charge he had designed to disable engines. He whispered to Mira, when I throw this, we move. She nodded firmly, her golden eyes blazing with confidence. The scarred man came around first, raising his weapon. Aaron hurled the sphere. It struck the ground at the man's feet, releasing a wave of blue sparks. The rifle shorted out with a sharp crack, and the man fell to his knees, stunned. Mira seized the chance. She pressed her wrist device, and a beam of golden energy burst forward, striking the sand in front of the other hunters. The ground shook, forcing them to stumble back. Together they ran toward the ship, but the hunters were not finished. One recovered quickly and fired a shot that grazed Aaron's shoulder. Pain seared through him, and he stumbled. Mira caught his arm, steadying him with surprising strength. She looked at him with concern. Hurt? He clenched his teeth. Not bad. Keep moving. They reached the ship's entrance. Aaron pulled himself inside while Mira touched the control panel. The ship's lights flared brighter as if answering her call. The hunters shouted outside, gathering again. They will not stop, Aaron said, breathing hard. Mira looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke slowly, each word heavy with meaning. They hunt me, because I am princess. Enemies want me, but you stand. You fight. You choose. Aaron's heart raced, but he did not look away. I could not do anything else. She smiled faintly, and her hand brushed his arm. You show heart. My people honor that. Before he could reply, the hunters charged again. Shots struck the side of the ship, shaking it. Aaron grabbed a metal bar from the floor and prepared to defend. Mira raised her shield once more, her golden light forming a barrier at the door. The hunters forced forward, desperate. The scarred man shouted, She is ours. You cannot keep her, Aaron. Do you know what she is worth? Aaron shouted back without hesitation. She is not for sale. She is not yours to take. With that, the fight grew fierce. Aaron used his traps, throwing sparks and smoke across the sand. Mira stood like a warrior, her shield blocking blasts while her wrist device struck with beams of light. Together they held their ground, neither yielding to fear. The hunters grew weaker, their weapons failing, their courage breaking. Finally, one of them fled into the night, disappearing into the dunes. Another collapsed from exhaustion, crawling away. The scarred man, however, stayed, his eyes burning with hate. He aimed his weapon at Aaron, his voice full of rage. You think you can protect her? You are just one man. She is not yours. Aaron tightened his grip on the metal bar. She does not belong to anyone. She chooses for herself. Before the man could fire, Mira stepped forward. Her golden shield blazed brighter than ever, fueled by her will. She raised her wrist, and a beam of light struck the ground before the man, throwing him backward into the sand. His rifle shattered, and he lay still, groaning. The desert fell quiet. The only sound was the hum of Mira's shield fading away and Aaron's heavy breathing. It was over. Aaron dropped the bar, his arm trembling from pain and exhaustion. Mira stepped to him, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. You fight. For me, she said softly. He nodded, his voice low. I could not let them take you. Her golden eyes glowed warmly. Where I come from, Lifemate is chosen in trials. Not in words, not in promises, but in courage. You would pass. Aaron blinked, confused. Lifemate? Mira smiled, though her expression was serious. I am princess. I choose partner, equal, lifemate. You stand when others fall. You fix, you protect, you fight with heart. My choice is clear. Aaron's mind spun. He had repaired her ship, guarded her secret, and fought beside her. Yet he had never thought himself anything more than a simple engineer. Now she was saying he had passed a test he never knew existed. Before he could find words, Mira leaned closer, her voice steady. Not now, soon when ship flies, choice becomes path. But remember, I already see you as more than engineer. The weight of her words filled the air between them. Aaron looked into her eyes and saw no jest, no trick, only truth. Outside, the desert stretched silent once more, but the memory of the battle remained. Aaron knew more would come. Others would hear of Mira and enemies would not stop. But for the first time he felt certain of one thing. He would not leave her side. The broken ship was no longer just a machine he was repairing. It was the vessel that carried both of their fates. And with every repair, with every choice, Aaron was not only fixing the ship but also shaping a bond that neither of them could deny. The morning after the battle was calm. The desert air was cool, and the first light of the twin suns touched the broken sand. Aaron stood outside his workshop looking at Mira's repaired ship. The sleek silver surface reflected the soft colors of dawn, a reminder of how strange and beautiful her world must be. For Aaron, it felt like the end of something important, but also the beginning of something unknown. He thought about the past days, about how he had worked with her side by side, how he had risked his life against the hunters, and how much he had changed without even realizing it. He was still the same man who fixed machines with old tools, but he felt different inside. He had seen the universe was larger and stranger than his colony had ever believed. Mira stepped out of the ship, her figure tall and graceful. She wore the silver cloak she had shown him when they first met, but this time she carried herself with more calm and pride. Her wounds were healed by her advanced medicine, and her eyes held a strength that made Aaron pause. "You look ready to leave," Aaron said softly, trying to hide the weight in his voice. "Yes," Mira answered. Her voice was clear, steady, and stronger than before. "My ship can travel again. My people are waiting for me. But before I go, there is something important I must do." Aaron looked at her with confusion. "What do you mean?" Mira stepped closer. Her eyes never left his, and her words carried a deep tone. "In my people's tradition, a princess does not choose a lifemate lightly. She watches, she tests, she learns. I did not plan this, Aaron. But through your actions you have shown me more than I expected. You repaired my ship without asking for reward. You defended me when danger came. You treated me as an equal, not as someone above you. For these reasons I have made my choice." Aaron felt his heart stop for a moment. "Your choice?" he asked, his voice unsteady. Mira raised her hand and touched the small crystal pendant on her cloak. The gem glowed softly, and she spoke with great care. "I choose you, Aaron of the human colony. I choose you as my lifemate." Aaron stepped back, his face pale with shock. He shook his head quickly. "No, that cannot be right. I am only a mechanic. I fix broken machines with old parts. You are a princess of the stars. Your people expect greatness, power, wisdom. I cannot be the one you choose. I am not worthy." Mira's expression softened, but her voice stayed calm and firm. "You are wrong, Aaron. Worth is not measured by titles or riches. Worth is measured by heart, by courage, by the strength to do what is right when it is hard. In my people's way, a lifemate is not chosen for beauty or for wealth, but for the soul. And your soul has proven itself. When you faced danger, you did not run. When you had no reason to help me, you did. That is worth more than crowns or armies." Aaron struggled to find words. His hands shook and his thoughts raced. He remembered the hunters, the fire, the long nights of repairs, and Mira's steady gaze. He had not done any of those things to impress her. He had only done what felt right. And yet somehow that had led him here. He looked down, then up again into her eyes. "If I say yes, what happens? What does it mean to be your lifemate?" Mira's eyes shone like stars. "It means you will not be alone. It means you will share my path and I will share yours. My people will see you as chosen by me, and they will respect you as they respect me. But more than that, it means you and I will face the future together. Human and alien, different worlds, but one bond. That is what it means." Aaron felt a mix of fear and hope. He thought of his colony, of the quiet life he had always known, and then he thought of the endless stars above, waiting for discovery. He thought of Mira's courage, her wisdom, and her faith in him. The choice was heavy but also clear. Slowly, he nodded. "If you truly choose me, then I will not refuse." I will go with you, Mira. Mira smiled, and for the first time, it was not the proud smile of a princess but the warm smile of a friend, a partner. She reached out her hand and Aaron took it. The crystal pendant glowed brighter, and a gentle sound filled the air as if the ship itself recognized the bond. You will not regret this, Mira said softly. From this day you are no longer just Aaron the mechanic. You are my chosen one, my life mate. The ship opened its doors and inside the lights glowed with soft colors. Aaron followed Mira up the ramp, his heart beating faster than ever. Every step felt like leaving behind his old life and stepping into something new. As they entered the ship, Mira moved to the controls. With a wave of her hand, the engines came alive, humming with energy. The silver walls glowed with blue light and the floor felt smooth under Aaron's boots. He looked around with awe, feeling both small and amazed. Are you afraid? Mira asked, glancing at him. Yes, Aaron admitted with honesty, but I am also ready. That is what makes you strong, Mira replied. Fear means you understand the risk. Readiness means you accept it. That balance is rare. That balance is why I chose you. The ship rose gently from the desert floor. Outside, the colony grew smaller and smaller, the people unaware that one of their own was leaving to join a destiny far greater. The sand stretched below, glowing in the morning light, then disappeared as the ship climbed higher. Aaron pressed his hand against the clear glass of the viewing window. He saw the planet shrinking beneath them, the sky turning dark, and then the endless stars opening before him. His breath caught in his throat. It was the universe, vast and endless, no longer a dream but a reality. Mira stood beside him, her presence steady and strong. This is only the beginning, she said. Together we will face trials, victories, and mysteries. But we will face them side by side. Aaron turned to her, and though doubt still lived in some corner of his heart, he felt something stronger rising, a sense of belonging, of purpose, of being part of something far greater than himself. He took a deep breath and whispered, Then let us begin. The ship soared forward faster than light, leaving behind the small world of sand and opening a path into the stars. Two figures, human and alien, stood together at the heart of it. Their journey had only just begun, but already it carried the weight of hope. And so, in the quiet hum of the ship and the endless stretch of starlight, the story of Aaron and Mira moved into a future where courage, kindness, and choice mattered more than power or titles. Humanity had found its place not through force, but through one man's heart, proving once more that even among the stars, humanity shines bright.